Now, for your listening pleasure, a Strange Uncles replay. Open the gates.
This is a Fourth Hand production.
Story in the news today.
You believe in ghosts and the paranormal?
Now, are they UFOs, or are they like some crazy experimental, governmental? I don't know, planes that they're building.
And police in Española are catching more than just criminals. They're catching images of what they believe are ghosts.
There's this weird animal-like creature that was shot, wolf-like creature that just stood out in some odd ways.
And welcome everybody to Strange Uncles, Season 5, Episode 1. How is everybody?
I'm doing great.
Jesus.
It's good to be back.
Back in the saddle again. It is good to be back. I almost forgot how to do this, which, we've been doing some test runs prior, and it's obvious I forgot how to do this. So, good thing we do these things, right? But,
oh, yeah.
Man, yeah, it's been a break.
You had a big move.
Yeah, had a big move. So, yeah, you guys know we're not going to inundate you too much, folks. But and I told you guys that it's great being back home, but the tenants absolutely trashed my place, like dead yards, broken appliances, broken window, like just insane. I just don't get people. I don't get people.
Jeez.
No.
Is it enough to take him to small claims court, or are you just going to wash your hands of it and just be done with it?
I don't think it's worth it, honestly. I thought about that. Wife is all pissed off still. I can't calm her down. I'm like, by the time you think about not even money, but our time, it's just like shit. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's just like, well, that sucks. Let's move on with our life.
Right. That's my motto. So,
yeah. And if they ever need a recommendation from a previous renter or something,
haha, guess what?
They're not going to get one from you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, but yeah, it is going to be back. And, we've been repairing, painting, patching, unpacking. We're still not here. I've kind of got the studio set up down here in the basement. But goddamn, looking forward to kind of hitting this off. And we'll be seeing you guys again in July. So folks that are listening, we're not going to be doing this distant thing all the time. Every 6 weeks I'm back in Salt Lake. And so it'll be cool to get together with you two and, be, especially now, great timing, right? The COVID is actually lifting up and then I move. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
You can finally do things again.
Yeah. What kind of a douche am I? So anyway, but Salt Lake still standing, I assume.
So far.
Haven't burnt it down yet.
No, so far it's here.
Did
Capital
find the
Y
right match,
on yet.
Yeah, exactly. All busy. Everything's good. Anyway, for listeners out there, thank you for bearing with us. It's been about a month. We did have some replays out there. Hopefully you listened to them. Some of you guys have listened to all the episodes way back when, but some of you guys just caught on maybe this year, this season, whatever have you. Again, this is season 5. So we are kicking it off, I think, the right way, guys. I think we got a pretty good dude lined up.
Yeah, I sure enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a fun interview for sure.
Yeah. And we got some good interviews lined up in the beginning. We've got some personal stuff that we're going to throw out there. We got some Patreon things we're going to plan. So yeah, season 5 is off and running. So we'll go from there. I will say that this person that we interviewed was kind of dropped in our lap a little bit. I really didn't expect a response back, but he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm retired. I have nothing better to do." And I'm, come on the podcast then, and we'll figure it out. Yeah. So, there it is.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, we're about to roll into it. Unless you guys have anything else necessarily. Anything to talk about, catch up, say anything for the listeners? Are we kind of good?
Yeah, I think we can just roll into the interview and roll that beautiful bean footage.
Outstanding. So you guys are going to enjoy this. This is a topic that's near and dear to our hearts, which is remote viewing. And this man is an excellent example. He's been in the field forever. His name's Lynn Buchanan. You'll hear it in the interview. But yeah, everybody, Lynn Buchanan, open the gates. So Lynn Buchanan has had an amazing journey in his career as a remote viewer. Lynn's involvement with controlled remote viewing came about by a long and strange series of events when he was assigned to be part of the Psychic Spies unit in the military, which some of the research he was part of is still classified to this day. He retired in 1992 from the military and started a company called Problem Solutions Innovations, where at the present time possesses the most complete body of data on the applications of remote viewing in real-world applications. Along with all of that, not only did he become a multilingualist in Russian, Mongolian, and Japanese, but he is author of a book called The Seventh Sense, The History of Remote Viewing as Told by a Psychic Spy for the U.S. Military. The list of his talents goes on, but let's let him explain all of those. Lynn Buchanan, welcome to Strange Uncles.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you. It's an honor.
Fantastic. Now, I just, number one, I guess we want to start just with the accolades of just everything you've been into. And of course, you know, you're still involved actively in remote viewing in general. We're not going to go down the road with our viewers of what it is, because they already know that. I think the first question that we really want to ask you is, you know, where did that start? Like what did that look like to even get into that subject matter? And did you really even know what it was when you started getting into it?
For me personally, yeah, when General Stubblebine came out to the military unit, I'd had this PK event where it killed computers. If you've seen the Men Who Stare at Ghosts movie, and he got up in my face and said, "Did you kill my computers with your mind?" You know, and I could see my great grandchildren still paying for computers, you know. And I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And he got this grin on his face, far effing out if I ever got a job for you. And he said, "We'll be in touch."
Wow.
So about 2 months later, these two guys came from DC, and they took me and my wife out to lunch, and they sort of, without reading me on, which is the official way to tell you, they just sort of told me what the unit was. And I thought, "Oh, you bet, I want that." And they looked at my wife and said, "But how do you feel about that?" And she said, "I think it's great." So then about a month later, they called me to Fort Meade and read me on officially, and, you know, transferred me from Germany to Fort Meade, and I became a part of the unit. But even still, I was thinking, you know, this is candid camera. This is a big joke. The Army doesn't do this. And then I saw the guys doing it, and they were great, and it worked. And, you know, they showed me the materials that they had done and all that. And I thought, this has got to be the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. And so there I was in the unit. Yeah.
So at that time, did the, I mean, obviously the Army, I'm assuming, correct? The military, was that the branch you were part of, or?
Army, yeah.
Army. Did you know how deep that they were into it? Like, how long did it take you to realize, wait a minute, you know, they've been studying this for a while. This is, I guess, in how infancy was this whole Psychic Spies unit at that time that you joined?
Yeah, in the read-on, I learned that they had been in operation for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Already. And then as, of course, I got in and got trained and became a remote viewer, I was also the database manager, because I do databasing and programming and all that. And so at different points, I learned that this did not just come out of nowhere. And I found some documentation and all that basically said that back when Adolf Hitler was in power, he had a group doing mind control experiments and all that called Dr. Grunbaum, which green tree, because he was really, as much as he, killed the Jews and all that, he was very deep into Hebrew mysticism, the green tree.
Yep.
And so he had Dr. Grunbaum as a project, and they were doing mind control experiments, psychological experiments, and much of the psyops of our government came from actually had its roots in Nazism, in the Nazi project. And anyway, when Hitler lost the war, England, France, and the U.S. And Russia started taking the nuclear people and the rocket people and all that.
Right.
Russia was the only one interested in the psychic stuff, and so they took it and they started developing it. And in the 60s, mid-60s, we were losing our intelligence information like crazy. They couldn't find out how. And this defector from Russia brought with him documentation that showed that they had basically a psychic spying effort. And, everybody had a good laugh at that, but the intelligence community doesn't laugh.
Sure.
And so they said, well, let's look into it. So they went out and got some researchers out in California at Stanford Research Institute and had them start developing projects. They hired a man named Ingo Swann, who developed the controlled remote viewing methodology. And that's what turned into the military spying project, psychic spying project.
So that's actually one of my questions. I was going to ask you later on in the interview. One of us was, but Ingo Swann, do you mind? So obviously you knew Ingo. What was that like? I mean, I can imagine. Just what was his whole character like?
His whole character, he could be nice, but you say something wrong or do something wrong, I mean, he stomp you. The old curmudgeon came out. and it was fantastic. We had a good friendship. We'd argue and fight and all this, and then, but we were really good friends, and I thought the world of Ingo. I don't think I've ever met a smarter person.
Wow.
He was extremely smart.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When you talk about the Russians had the only interest in remote viewing at that time before, I guess, we got on board and everybody else got on board. It was that, just out of curiosity, was that one of the reasons you became a linguist in that language, or was there another thing?
No, I was fluent in German already and was teaching it in college. And this was after my first term in the military. And later, I went back into the military, and they said, okay, you're a German linguist. We will test you and send you to Germany. And some bean counter came along and said, no, we have enough German linguists. Stick them in Russian school. And so there I was in Russian school. It's the Army way of doing things. So I stayed in Russian school, and then got assigned as a German-Russian linguist to Japan. It's the military way, and worked in Japan, picked up Japanese and Mongolian. And I love languages. So, I picked these up along the way. Then I came back, went to advanced Russian, and then got sent over to Germany to do basically Russian intercept,
Wow. That's amazing.
And it was in Germany where that event where the computer happened. Mm-hmm. And General Stubblebine came out, grabbed me, and put me into the unit.
So is the SRI, is that where you did a lot of your training at the beginning?
No, we did it at Fort Meade.
Oh, okay.
I did it at Fort Meade. Now, the day I went into the unit was a Friday, and the following Monday, I was supposed to go to Ingo for training. But on Friday, Ingo lost his contract. Oh. And so they said, okay, well, let's get Ingo's students who are already trained to train in-house. And so I trained from Ingo's students. It was later when I met Ingo, became friends, and, learned a lot from him afterwards. But my formal training was in the military unit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that's Maryland, I think, right? Meade, is that correct?
Fort Meade, Maryland.
Right. Fort Meade, Maryland, yeah. Did they have you guys in like originally like a not a demoed, but literally a barracks that it was off limits, was too dangerous to be in, and they just kind of threw you into that building? Wasn't that kind of the thing?
Ramshackled is the term usually used for that building. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was condemned right after World War II.
Oh, my God.
And it was a set of two buildings. One was the kitchen and cook area. That's where we did our work. And the other was the area for the administration. This in World War II, for the administration, for the cooks and all that. And that was our administration building. The old kitchen area and all that was where we worked. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, hey, if you're going to have a secret unit, I suppose put them in the condemned building type thing. So, and just for our listeners too. So what year did that start? You're saying it was condemned in World War II area. What year did that kick off that you were part of that unit?
That I was part of the unit early in 1994.
Okay. Yeah. Quite a chunk of time. Wow.
Yeah.
And are there,
But now that unit had actually started only about 10 years before that.
Okay. So
early sat there dormant. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just crumbling, waiting for you guys to arrive.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Are there any type of like declassified things that you can talk about that unit, kind of some operations that you guys performed, or any type of?
A lot of the stuff that we did is now available on Freedom of Information Act. And a lot of it, of course, is now published in books. A lot of the work that I did that has been declassified is now in my book. I hate people who always, shove their book in everybody's faces, but it's called The Seventh Sense, and it tells about my time there in the unit. It also tells about what remote viewing is, gives exercises that people can do and all that. So
let's talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind, Lynn. Well, first of all, I guess, and I'm sure you've heard it time and time again as you interview. When we wrap up, I do want to kind of ask about the movie. Of course, we're not going to mention it now, but we'll touch bases on it. But so was the movie loosely based on the book at all, or how did that come about?
Well, it was loosely based on a book by John Ronson over in England, who had the contract to write a book that would embarrass the U.S. government, and he chose the psychic stuff to use it. And so the movie actually has very little to do with the book itself, but the book is named The Men Who Stare at Goats. And so the movie starts out, you wouldn't believe how much this is true. Right. The fact is, the storyline that held the plot together took information from about 20 years of that project and put it into that storyline plot. And watching the movie, first of all, I laughed all the way through it. It was a comedy, you know.
Yeah.
And watching the movie, I really didn't see hardly anything that had not actually happened.
I'll be damned.
The killing of the goat, the other things. The only thing I can remember that didn't actually happen is at the end of the movie, Lynn's student walks through a wall.
Right, I remember. Yeah, I remember that scene. It's been a while, but yeah, it's a fantastic movie for sure. And again, we're gonna we'll play in with that. So, would you mind a little bit? There was a certain time, and again, we don't go into what remote viewing is. If you listen to this podcast, you should know what it is. But you were mainly concentrated in CRV. Is that correct?
Totally concentrated on it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind kind of breaking that down a little bit on like what method that is, what that looked like for what your research was?
Yeah. Okay. Controlled remote viewing is not in and of itself psychic. Okay. It is a methodology that was developed by Ingo Swann to get your subconscious mind, which is psychic, talking to your conscious mind so that information from your subconscious can be found consciously and written down so that some customer can use it. And what he did, he started out with these different stages of work. In the first stage, you get just the overall, what's called gestalts, overall aspects. There's water and some land. Okay. Then in stage 2, you go in and you say, okay, the water is, and you start describing it. When you get through that, you say the land is, and you start describing it. Stage 3, you take the information you got from that and you start drawing it to get a sketch. In stage 4, you take the information from that and from the sketch, and you start finding tiny, tiny details about it. Like in the sketch, you found there's something man-made over here that is red. Okay? You get into stage 4. Why is it red? What causes it to be red? What's the ramifications of it being red? And this process takes the remote viewer, the psychic, and in an organized manner, gets them to where they can describe and almost even draw accurately some microboard, some computer microboard, or the floor plans of the building where a hostage is being held, the diagrams of scientific developments that are being developed in another country, what a foreign leader is planning for the next day of battle, things like this. And so it's a progressive method that at right about stage 3 passes what a normal psychic can do.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, amazing. Do you find that method is the most effective? And we'll get into it later on in the podcast. But you still are doing this. You're probably doing this with your company. Do you still find that method the best? Do you still kind of pin off that, or no?
It works for me. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Actually, when you go to get details, extreme details, like exactly, the archaeologist has this big field, and you finally get to where you can say, dig right here, and you'll find what you're looking for, or something like that. That is something that the absolute best psychics may be able to do, but it's something that this English Swan methodology takes you from your normal intuitive ability to where you can do it too.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we're going to take a quick break, Lynn, but we're going to come back, and I think, we've got the structure of everything laid out. We really want to get into some stories if you're okay with that, if you're comfortable with that.
Sure.
So we're going to take a quick break. Stand by, everybody.
Believe in UFOs? Felt that chill up your spine that you just can't explain? Contemplate the other side of reality? Do you shake your head at the world that seems to have lost its common sense? Well, look no further than Strange Uncles. Find them on all podcast platforms and call their hotline to tell your side of reality at 801-252-6945. Open the gates.
All right, everybody, and we're back with Lynn Buchanan. And we can roundhouse this because I think this is what we all really want to get into was just the research you did, the stories you did. If you had to pick, and this may be, I'm sure you can't just pick one thing out, but when you talk about the sessions that you were involved in, the research you were involved in, what was some of the nitty gritty? What was some of the things, maybe a session that really stuck out to you that just you really maybe you didn't want to be part of? Does that make sense?
Oh, I wanted to be part of all of it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that some of those sessions weren't extremely horrific. Some of them were. Mm-hmm. And yet, I wanted to be part of what we were doing. I wanted to be involved, and good results came from it. So, but most of them were basically just information gathering, doing personality profiles in people, finding out what some military or government leader in a foreign country has planned for how they're going to vote, what they plan to do the next day of battle for a military leader, things like this.
You had in your notes, it just fascinates me that is what you guys were involved in, but Saddam Hussein, that was one thing when you were in there. What kind of involvement was that? Like, what did you guys have to do with, obviously he was not a good person in general, but what did that research look like with him involved?
Yeah, for one thing, he was crazy. He was bat flight crazy, but it was mainly accessing him, getting his plans and intentions, finding his location over and over and over, just basically spying on everything he was going to do. Yeah, the man didn't stand a chance. When if you know who Joe McMoneagle is, when the attack on the embassy happened, and they were trying to rescue the embassy employees, the Marine team that was going in with the helicopters hit a sandstorm, and the helicopters got clogged with the sand and couldn't fly, so they had to land all of a sudden. And Joe was remote viewing at that moment. And he reported that the helicopters were down. And so they sent that up through the chain of command, and that got to the president 10 minutes before the electronic message came from the team over there that their helicopters were down.
The actual wire that it came through, it came 10 minutes prior. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't know if did you guys have a question?
Go ahead.
Was he one of the only ones, Lynn? Was there other? I mean, you talk about other,
Oh yeah,
leaders in power.
While I was there were basically 8 of us that came in and left and all that, And I was there for 8.5 years, which is an unheard of amount of time for an enlisted tour. And I had to turn down promotions and all that in order to stay, in fact.
Wow.
But it was the most amazing job I've ever had in my life. I wouldn't want to give it up if I could keep it.
That's it. Well, and you mentioned that you want to be part of it all. I mean, we couldn't even imagine how amazing it was, just because you're part of this group, you're part of what you're doing, you're seeing the results from it. Even though you want to be part of it so much, I would imagine, I would think that there'd be some psychological wear and tear to a certain point. Was there ever a point there?
Tremendous psychological wear and tear. I was fairly good at accessing people mentally, and I had been tasked with all of these leaders and bad guys and everything else. And one time I went in and told the director, I said, "Look, I can't do this anymore. Give me Bozo the Clown, give me Mother Teresa, give me somebody besides these guys, that's just eating me alive." And of course he said, "You're a soldier. Do your damn job.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. Get out," And so I did. But about a week later, unknown to me, there was a lull in the requirements for us. And so the monitor that monitored my sessions, we went over to the other building, and he said, "Okay, you're doing another personality assessment." And so I started the session, and all of a sudden I realized, listen, this guy isn't a bad guy. This is a great guy. And so by the end of that session, I had this glowing feeling in me that I had met somebody that was so perfect. And so anyway, my summary for that session was, whatever evil you think this guy did, he didn't do it.
Wow.
And the monitor opened the envelope, pulled out the target listing, and our director had handwritten on a piece of paper, Jesus.
Oh, God. Seriously?
And,
wow.
That session actually had a profound psychological, religious, and emotional and everything effect on my life following up. It really did.
From that set, what were you always religious from the beginning, or did that just confound it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it look like inside a person's head? Like once you are able to remote view somebody psychologically, like what does that look like?
Here's one of the things about controlled remote viewing is that it is so detailed that we have mental tools to keep us from getting what's called sucked in. So you don't get into that other person's head, because as you get into that other person's head and you feel their feelings and you think their thoughts, they have political belief systems, religious belief systems, and all that. And those can affect you. And you may not get over those after the session. I know there was one session one time where I was doing this military political leader in another country, and just finished the session, reported what I got and all that. And I had this just eerie feeling that I had missed something. And so I was driving home, and I lived about a 2.5 hour drive from work. And I was driving home, And I was mentally going through what I was going to do that weekend. And it was, mow the lawn, wash the car, kill my wife, and do these other things,
Yikes.
Yeah. And I thought, what?
Yeah.
I went back through it. And I sort of realized what I had missed. And that Monday, when I went back to work, one of the news items was that this targeted leader, his wife had died under mysterious circumstances that weekend.
No way. Oh,
and so anyway, but those things can, sort of seep in and you don't realize it. So we don't get into anybody's head.
Right.
We basically have a conversation with their subconscious mind and report what we get. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Obviously not every target, because some of them aren't going to be even aware that this is a thing, but did you ever have targets that you were trying to view that maybe had like countermeasures or like training to try and keep you from accessing them?
Yeah, one of the things about CRV, controlled remote viewing, is that in and of itself it's not a psychic process.
Right.
It's a set of tools, mental tools. And the way it's devised, if you stick to the English Swan process, you really can't be detected. And we have found during all the years of doing this, we have found ways to get past basically every form of protection against being psychically spied on that I ever met.
That they may have. Yeah. And I think you kind of answered, you asked my question a little bit, Josh, but I think have you ever had, especially maybe in the early days of research, where, you're getting into that subconscious level and they caught on to it? Has that ever happened, or is there anything in research that has proven that there's a reverse? Does that make sense?
There were two basic times. One, I was doing a session and I got out of the English One structure, and I was mentally standing. It was a practice target of a museum, and I was standing in front of this museum case looking down at some stuff. And one of the things about remote viewing, the controlled remote viewing, is that you tend to go there at a static moment. And so I looked up and people in the museum were frozen, not moving. And I looked around and this young Chinese looking woman was looking straight at me. And I sort of did a double take. When I did, she turned around and disappeared. And so, that was totally unusual.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned it to my monitor, and my monitor had the presence of mind to say, okay, move to where she disappeared to and describe. And so I did, and that's how we found and sort of made mental contact with the Chinese psychic spying effort.
I'll be damned.
Wow.
And the other time, there were probably many other times along this line. The other time was when I was doing the alien base that's in Australia. And basically what happened was I was there, and they let me know that they knew I was there and that it was okay. Go ahead and look around. So I did,
Alien base in Australia. Could you explain that?
You caught our interest.
I kind of wondered if anybody would key in on that.
I was like, hold on.
At SRI, they had another viewer named Pat Price, and he found 4 alien bases on Earth. And
what do you mean extraterrestrial, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And at different times in our training, we would be tasked with those. Once they had a database that showed our track record, showed how good we are at colors, how good we are at shapes and everything else, then we would be tasked with one of those because there's no feedback. And so if you say red, they look in the database and say, how good is he at red? That's dependable. And so, when I got that series of practice targets for the alien bases, I found the bases, and the one in Australia is where basically I got caught, and I was in structure and everything else. Mm-hmm. And ideally in structure, you can't get caught, but I was caught in structure, and they let me know, hey, we know you're here. It's okay.
But they're not going to mess with you. They let you do your thing or whatever have you. So
yeah.
How many times did you actually? I'm sorry, you just peeked her. Now we're like, oh my god, we're geeking out over. How many times did you actually go down where it wasn't what we would think of real world? You're doing it for military purposes, ambassadors, third world leaders, but you opened this other side.
Yeah, and we were never officially tasked through official channels to do any ET or UFO work. Mm-hmm. Now, if a 4-star general or a senator or something like that came in and asked a question, what's the sergeant going to say? No?
Right.
And ask for a favor, but we were never officially tasked to do any ET work. Yeah.
And you said they let you look around that Australian base. Mm-hmm. Could you tell if it was like on land, underwater?
It was inside a mountain.
Inside a mountain.
And it seems to, on that base, seems to be a entry port for friendlies to come to the Earth. They enter Earth airspace there, and then wherever they're going around the Earth, they go out from there. And there is a lot of reported UFO activity around that mountain. So
in that area. You mentioned friendlies. Is that, and again, if we don't want to go down this road, that's perfectly fine, but that leads me to wonder that there's unfriendlies as well that maybe you're aware of.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, after the military, I was asked to do a study comparing ET psychic ability, this very specific ET psychic ability, to human psychic ability. And there's not just us and them, there's us and them and them and them and them and them and them and them, all the many thems. And so I was given access to many records. And the conclusion that I finally came up with was brought to me by this one incident where these guys were camping by a lake, and in the evening they saw this UFO off in the distance, and it started coming toward them, and they stood there and watched this UFO thinking it was going to go over. It came over them, stopped, and they were frozen, and they got abducted. And from studying these other incidents that I had found that I was given, it dawned on me that that those ETs might have more power than we have, but they have no range. They have to be right over you.
Oh.
And so in the study, I had found that there were those that don't like us and those that, the friendlies and the unfriendlies. And within each group, there are those who are more psychic than we are and either equal or less psychic than we are. And I had already sort of broken these and the incidents surrounding them into 4 groups. And one was that the unfriendly, less psychics tend to only come here by accident. The friendly non-psychics come here for trade. The friendly ones who are more psychic than we are evidently want us to develop our abilities and learn and educate us and all this. The unfriendly ones tend to want us just wiped off the planet. And I couldn't figure out why. And that one incident told me, because even though they may have more ability than we have, they have no range. We can see across space and time like we can see across a room. So when we get out into space, if we develop that ability, we will be a power in the universe.
And the unfriendlies know that.
Yeah. And that's why the friendly ones want to help us. The friendly ones want to get rid of us. The unfriendly ones want to get rid of us, yeah.
Please tell me, Lynn, that there's more friendlies and unfriendlies in this whole balance equation going on. Or
well, as far as them coming here, yeah, the unfriendly ones don't tend to come here, yeah.
Is that kind of what you tend to focus on now, is traversing space and time almost? Or like in your work nowadays, what do you prefer to controlled remote view, or
no?
Is it anything? Is it?
Yeah, CRV is meant to be a practical situation, for military and all that. And now that it's come out into the civilian arena, we're doing it for helping doctors diagnose things, for researchers to develop their research better, for treasure hunters to find treasures, gamblers to find, actually come back from the casino with some money, and businesses, police departments, and government agencies that need this help every now and then. For the police and the agencies, that's all pro bono work. But the applications that have come from the civilian arena are really quite diverse.
Do you think now? Sorry.
I noticed that in your bio, you said you work with like businesses, police agencies, all that. How many? Is there a significant amount of police agencies across the country using, like, there's a remote viewer in that agency, or like?
More so than before. Mm-hmm. Now the thing is that the Facebook armchair experts who are loud and all this, they're really disgracing the word remote viewing, but they're using the word remote viewing, not controlled remote viewing. Mm. And the project managers and the viewers who are actually doing specifically the controlled remote viewing are very quietly doing it in the background, staying away from Facebook, staying away from the pie fights and all this other stuff. And so the word is getting around, and people are starting to very quietly use the controlled remote viewers again, And it's spreading among businesses, the police, and other people. Yeah.
So do you think
we signed non-disclosure agreements, so we don't talk about our work?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And we just quietly, beneath all that, crap that's on the internet.
Yeah.
We just do our work, and and do some good. Yeah.
Well, it's usually the morons and charlatans that make the loudest noise.
That's absolutely true too. Do you see, I mean, obviously you're hoping, are we looking better when we talk about the stigma of, you say, remote viewing and not necessarily CRV? Is it getting better? Are we making strides? Like, where do you want it to get to one of these days?
Yeah. Remote viewing itself. Okay. When it first came out to the public, it was laughed at, and comedy routines and everything else, you know, and all of this spooky stuff. I know that they did a movie where it showed that a military remote viewer was actually wound up being a murderer because of, a mass murderer because of what he did, and there was a TV show that showed that the remote viewing messed up a military remote viewer so badly that he jumped off of a balcony and killed himself. All this other stuff, just the Hollywood drama. And they still do that to some extent. But now, like your podcast here, you're serious about it. I mean, you aren't here to say, well, if you're so psychic, why ain't you rich? And all that kind of stuff, Right. And by the way, I am psychic and I am fairly rich. But anyway, it's taken seriously.
Yeah.
Now, a whole lot more than it was. It's proving itself in actual work. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you can't. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, so many things. The book that really sold me was Annie Jacobson's Phenomena, where it talks about Pat Price and SRI and Russell Targ and everything. I mean, you can't deny the evidence, and the evidence is out there.
Well, a lot of people,
regardless if a layman like myself doesn't understand the mechanics behind it.
A lot of people are denying the evidence, but it's still proof.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. Speaking of Hollywood, you mentioned that. Let's end on a high note. How ecstatic were you to know that George Clooney played you in a movie? I mean, let's loop back to The Men Who Stare at Ghosts, because I think that's amazing.
Well. Let's be accurate about this, okay? He played me, and many of the things that happened to Lynn Cassidy, was it, were actually my experiences. However, the plot had to entail 20 years of actual events.
Right.
And so it wound up that the character Lynn Cassidy was actually a compilation of many other real people, not just me.
Yeah.
For example, I killed the computers. I didn't kill the goat. That was another sergeant that did that.
That's crazy.
And so, to say that George Clooney played me in the movie, I was a major part of the character that he played.
Yeah.
That's being accurate about it. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, for what it's worth, and just to wrap up, all jokes aside, if nothing else, you have to be humbled at the end of the day, because, we were so looking forward to having you on, because the research, the history, the stories, everything you've been involved in, and just who you are as a person, it just blows our minds. And I can't thank you enough for doing it, and just, the movie thing.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. It's just amazing. So you have something you're doing now that we've read in the bio. It's the Problem Solutions Innovations. Do you want to discuss that? Anything you want to promote on your side, that company, what you're actively still doing, that you're still helping people?
Well, what I'm doing now, especially with the COVID thing, is I'm moving all of the training over to online training. I'm making videos. I have the ARV course, which is associative remote viewing, which has many, many uses, and yet everybody says, oh, let's go gamble, because it predicts the outcome of an event. and like a ball game or a roulette wheel. And so that's 90% of the people use it for that. It has many uses. Also, I have the basic level CRV course, and I'm developing right now, finishing up the intermediate level course. Then I have the advanced level, the post-advanced level, the monitors course, the medical applications course, the police applications course, and the basic course itself has over 160 videos in it. So
that's amazing. Do you find, just this more curiosity on my side? I don't know about John and Josh, but have you been more reached out because of COVID? Like, are people reaching out more popular because they're like, hey, they stumble on this thing, or has that really changed?
I still get like about 80 email a day. There's no way to keep up with it. But over the past, actually 8 years, my mother, who is right at about 100, was in the process of a very lengthy expiration and dying. We took care of her. Then my wife, and in October of this last year, my wife died.
So sorry.
And so I have been sort of out of socket on it. And now then with the COVID, immediately just started the online training, just gave up on in-house training. And
our condolences. Very sorry.
Thank you.
That's yeah. Well, John, Josh, you have any more questions, any more follow-ups? I mean, it just...
well, I just want to make sure that is the proper website that everyone should be going to. Is it crviewer.com?
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on that right now. Cool. Yeah. And it's there's also, I see free resources, like you have Target of the Weeks and everything.
Yeah, I have over 450 presently. I'm probably adding about a couple hundred more. Good remote viewing targets that have lots of feedback. They're not esoteric, they have feedback. Mm-hmm. And we don't track anybody. So if anybody wants to try some of those targets, if you do badly, nobody has to know. If you do great, you have total bragging rights.
Yeah. I was wondering, so we've tried our own session, and I mean, we have no idea what we're doing, but I mean, we've read some books and, we did our best, and actually Josh had some pretty interesting results with his, but, is there any just quick tips that like you could give somebody that's just starting out? I don't want you to give away too much of anything, but
one of the basic things that we learned about getting more accurate information, somebody will get that something at the target site is red, round. Oh, it's a ball. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's your conscious mind making logic. It's not your subconscious being psychic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It may be a kitchen appliance that's red and round. You don't know.
Right.
And so what we do, one of the first things we do, and it's very hard training, by the way, is we tell them no nouns. Describe. Don't try to identify what the target is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and if you do that, what you're going to find is that if you stop trying to name the target and you only describe it, your accuracy rate's going to go up.
So that's very interesting, and just learn to follow the steps. Learn not to have that conscious mind grab onto a thing right away.
Yeah,
like we're naturally apt to do. I mean, just us as humans, this is what we do. So I think that's the hardest thing with remote viewing is you've got to train yourself to do the opposite.
Yeah, we have a training analogy that says, Ugh and Og, two cavemen were walking through the primeval forest, and a twig snapped behind them. Ugh said, saber-toothed tiger, identified it immediately and started running. Og said, what's that? Well, guess whose descendants we are?
That's a good one.
And the thing is, from very caveman days, the person who could identify the quickest survived. And so in remote viewing, you have all of human history to overcome.
Right. Yeah, that's a challenge for sure, uphill.
It really is,
that's amazing. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your time. You're military, so I was Navy, so I was a military. I'm very aware of the term military intelligence. It's irony at its finest, for sure. But we also want to remind everybody your book, Lynn, Seventh Sense, The History of Remote Viewing, as told by a psychic spy for the U.S. military. Pick it up. It's amazing. It's something that's on my to-do list, definitely. And we love having you. Thank you so much we'd love to have you back. If you make any progress, you need any promotion on our side. And if you don't mind just hanging on, we're going to wrap up the interview, but if you don't mind staying online afterwards, we just want to say our thanks and we'll go for there. So everybody, that was Lynn Buchanan. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
It still blows my mind with just his story. He's so nonchalant and cavalier about everything that he did. All these projects, all these secret things. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I liked how he just very, very dryly slipped in when they had him target the underground base in Australia.
Yeah,
I just kept going right on by it.
Like what you
And when we were like, whoa, wait, what? He was like, I thought I'd see if you guys would notice that. I was like, of course we would.
Yeah, I almost let him. I almost just didn't say anything about it, but I'm like, I can't not.
I cannot let that go.
What?
Yeah. No, that's funny.
He dropped it the way I dropped something weird about anarchism in a random conversation, and then keep moving in case people don't want to talk about it. He was like, yeah, and then there was the alien base. But anyway, this one time I was looking at Muammar Gaddafi or something, and we're like, wait, what?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it just, and he was talking about not just an alien base, but 4, evidently, which you guys heard in the interview.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it for what it's worth. I mean, and I'm sure what he talked about was just the tip of the iceberg, the operations and the projects he's been involved in and everything. I mean, that was a 55 minute episode, and oh my God. Just everything he was dishing out. I was like a little kid in a candy store, just crazy.
Yeah, I immediately ate some medicinals and
did you watch a movie?
Went and watched The Men Who Stare at Goats. Yeah,
I actually did the same thing, but with a couple shots. Yeah, it's just amazing. Like I said, and the movie still holds up. To be honest with you, I forgot
it was
so
a lot
much.
of fun actually.
Yeah, exactly. Reminiscent for sure. So, well, we're hoping to have him back on. I did email after the interview, and he said, yeah, more than happy. He's got tons of stories. And I think really, when we do this with a lot of our guests, when we have them back on, the first time we kind of do that broad scope and get to feel them out, where they came from, what they've been involved in. And the second time around, we more specifically kind of narrow into something that really a subject they might have brought up, something we want to pinpoint, and those interviews are always fun too, because, you kind of dig underneath the layers of skin a bit, always a good thing. So,
yeah. Have a little bit more of a repertoire with each other and feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah. And it's kind of neat too, because we get some guests that actually reach out and go, hey, can't wait to come back on. Let me know when you have a slot. I'm like, oh, cool. So it's building the rapport, right?
Hey, we're not complete dipshits.
Complete.
Yeah.
No, note to self.
I mean, we're dipshits, but we're not all the way.
Yeah. Halfway down the thing.
You never go full dipshit.
Calm down.
We're a
Tropic
slice
Thunder.
of bread short of a dipshit sandwich.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Absolutely. No, too cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode. Again, that's season 1. We have more to come in. I think it's going to be a fun season. And then I mentioned this at the end of season 4 that I got tickets to that Bigfoot festival. So that's coming actually this month. So that's in June.
Oh, nice.
And so we'll see what they're supposed to be.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be some good speakers going on. So, we'll see.
I expect right up on my desk at 0800.
Yep, absolutely, sir. I will hand it to you in person in July. So, yeah, it should be cool. Looking for the weird stuff for sure. I will say a little fun fact about, we talked about it in the beginning about moving, because moving always sucks no matter what it is, whether it's back home. It just moving sucks in general. But the wife decided to, she's like, well, she goes, when we move back, can we make our house look grown up? I'm like, well, what are you talking about, grown? She goes, well, none of your weird shit all over the house. And so I'm limited to the basement, but she did give me the hallway. And so immediately my weird shit went up and it's on and she's like, man, I shouldn't have said a word. So when you come out of the bathroom, you're staring at Frankenstein automatically. And she's like, God damn you. I'm like, hey, you told me the rules and I followed them. So it's your fault, not mine.
I mean, Frankenstein's way cooler than like a live, laugh, love sign or something.
Right? Yeah. Tell me about it.
What does she mean by adult?
I know. It's a far stretch.
It means suppressing your personality to make other people comfortable, I think.
That's a very good definition, sir, for sure. But anyway, kind of cool. Listeners, if you have stories, you have tales to tell, you have a relative that has anything, by all means, we want to hear it. You can email us at strangeuncles@gmail.com, or you can call us at 801-252-69 45. Let us know. Leave a 3-minute message. If it goes longer, just call back. I'll splice those together. We love to hear stories. We've got a small collection of them, and we're kind of building them. So, we want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, especially now with the times. The UAPs are continuing, the disclosures continuing. Like, it's not stopping just because we took a break for a month. So stand by for more episodes. Stand by for news also. Monthly, we get our news episodes, so we'll throw that your way. And I'll tell you what, guys, I actually have been saving there's some shit that has come down the pike in the last month that is very, very surprising. So I can't wait for our July news for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the UAP world is blowing up right now.
Oh, it's
but
insane.
I still feel like that report that's going to come out is going to be very underwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Everybody's excited about it, but it's like, man, what are you going to do?
At most, it's going to be like, oh, here are a few more sightings that weren't out there publicly, but we don't know what any of this shit is. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, touche. Same thing. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So stand by for that. How are we looking on socials?
They're still there, I think.
I tried to keep up when we had a break. I think I did okay. I don't know.
We're at Strange Uncles Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Strange Uncles on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. There is some cool stuff there. I'd recommend going and checking it out. It gets updated, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now that we're nested, we'll get back into the swing of things. We need you guys' help for it for sure. And then Patreon, stand by. We're going to try to schedule Strangers Around the Table again, amongst other things. And, of course, the books we're reading. I had a little bit of a hiatus with the move, but I'm starting to pick them back up again, get them in routine, and I've got a bunch to recommend. So we're looking good there. So let us know. But I don't know, boys. That's all I got on my side.
That's all I got on my side. It's good to see you guys again.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. In person or sure. I've been waiting for this. It's been fun. So I will continue the move and we'll continue to schedule episodes. And glad to be alive and thrive for season 5. So
there you go.
Very alliterative.
Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, close the gates, everyone.